Before we begin, subscribe and tell us in the comments what city or country you're watching from. Tonight, a billionaire's girlfriend will shove a black maid into a luxury pool while party guests laugh, but the moment the billionaire dives in after her, everyone will realize the maid was carrying something far more important than a serving tray. Careful, maid. That dress probably costs more than your yearly salary. Laughter rolled across the rooftop pool deck. Asha Morgan kept walking. She was 32, black, poised, and had worked at billionaire Dominic Hale's Miami waterfront penthouse for almost 2 years. Tonight, she was serving champagne at Dominic's private summer party, surrounded by influencers, investors, athletes, and people who had never once carried their own plates. Dominic's girlfriend, Savannah, stood beside the infinity pool in a silver swimsuit covered by a transparent designer wrap. She had been drinking since sunset. And she had spent most of the evening finding reasons to embarrass Asha. First, Savannah complained that Asha's shoes were too loud. Then she made her polish an already clean glass table in front of guests. Now she was blocking Asha's path while nearly 50 people watched. Asha balanced a tray of champagne flutes. "Excuse me, Miss Cole." Savannah did not move. "What did you say?" "I need to pass." "You need to smile." Asha's expression stayed neutral. "I'm working." Savannah laughed. "That's exactly the problem. You always look like you think you're better than everyone." Asha looked around at the guests. Several had already pulled out their phones. She knew what Savannah wanted. A reaction. A video. A moment she could turn into entertainment. Asha refused to give it to her. "I'm going back inside." Savannah stepped in front of her. "Not yet." Asha stopped. "Move." Savannah's friends gasped dramatically. One woman whispered, "Did the maid just order her?" Savannah smiled. "You've gotten very comfortable in Dominic's house." "I'm comfortable doing my job." "You know his schedule." "Yes." "You know what he eats." "Yes." "You know what time he comes home." "That's part of managing the household." Savannah's smile disappeared. "And he asks your opinion." There it was. Jealousy. Asha had noticed it growing for months. Dominic trusted her. Not romantically. Practically. When his mother visited, Asha made sure her medication schedule stayed organized. When a hurricane warning forced half the staff home early, Asha coordinated the entire penthouse herself. When Dominic's art dealer tried to overcharge him by nearly $80,000, Asha noticed the duplicate invoice. Savannah hated that Dominic listened when Asha spoke. Asha lowered the tray. "This has nothing to do with the party, does it?" Savannah stepped closer. "You think because he respects you, you matter. I matter whether he respects me or not." A few guests stopped laughing. Savannah's eyes sharpened. "Say that again." "No." "Why?" "Because I don't perform on command." Savannah looked toward her friends. "See what I deal with?" A man near the pool laughed. "Someone needs to remind her who works for who." Asha stared at him. Savannah smiled. "Exactly." Then she reached for the tray. Asha pulled it back. "Don't. Are you scared I'll break something?" "No." Asha looked at the pool. "I'm scared you're drunk enough to do something stupid." That silenced everyone. Savannah's face turned red. "You think you can insult me?" "You asked." Savannah grabbed Asha's wrist. Asha immediately pulled free. "Do not touch me." Phones rose higher. Guests sensed the moment they had been waiting for. Savannah laughed loudly. "Relax. It's a party." Then she shoved Asha. Hard. Asha stumbled backward. Her heel caught the edge of a lounge chair. The champagne tray flew from her hands. Glasses shattered. And Asha fell sideways into the pool. The water swallowed her. For 1 second, the rooftop was silent. Then several people laughed. Someone actually clapped. Savannah stood at the edge smiling down. I guess she needed to cool off. More laughter. But beneath the water, Asha wasn't laughing. Her right ankle had twisted when she fell. And something heavy inside her uniform pocket was pulling her downward. A small metal case. She had found it 30 minutes earlier behind a loose panel in Dominic's wine cellar. She had been trying to get it to him privately. Now the case was sinking with her. Asha kicked upward. Pain shot through her ankle. She reached the surface once. Help! A wave from the pool filtration system pushed her toward the deep end. Savannah's smile faded slightly. She can swim, right? Nobody answered. Then the penthouse doors flew open. Dominic Hale stepped onto the rooftop. He had returned from a business call downstairs. His eyes landed on the shattered glasses. Then Savannah. Then Asha struggling beneath the water. What happened? Savannah laughed nervously. She slipped. One of the guests said, she pushed her. Dominic did not ask another question. He tore off his jacket and jumped into the pool fully dressed. The laughter stopped instantly. Dominic reached Asha as she slipped beneath the surface again. He wrapped one arm around her and pulled her upward. Look at me. Asha coughed violently. My ankle. I've got you. He carried her toward the steps. Savannah stood frozen. Dominic, she's fine. He looked up at her. Did you push her? It was a joke. Dominic's expression changed. Asha gripped his sleeve. The case. What? In my pocket. Dominic reached into the soaked uniform pocket and pulled out the small metal case. Savannah went completely pale. That reaction did not escape him. What is this? Asha struggled to breathe. I found it behind the wine cellar wall. Savannah took one step backward. Dominic opened the case. Inside was a single flash drive, a hotel room key, and a photograph. The picture showed Savannah standing beside a man Dominic recognized immediately. His former chief financial officer. The same man who had disappeared 6 months earlier after $23 million vanished from Hale Maritime. Dominic looked at Savannah. She wasn't smiling anymore. And Asha finally understood why Savannah had been watching her so closely all night. She hadn't pushed Asha into the pool because of jealousy. She had pushed her because she knew exactly what was inside that case. Dominic stared at the photograph. Savannah stood beside Eric Vance, the former Hale Maritime chief financial officer who had disappeared 6 months earlier after $23 million vanished from the company. The photograph had been taken inside room 814 of the Royal Meridian Hotel. The same number printed on the key inside the metal case. Dominic looked at Savannah. When was this taken? I don't know. You're in the picture. It could be old. Eric disappeared 6 months ago. Savannah crossed her arms. So you told me you had never met him. Her expression flickered. Asha noticed. Dominic did too. Savannah stepped closer. Dominic, you're standing here soaked, defending a maid who just broke into your private wine cellar. Asha sat on the pool steps while a medic wrapped her ankle. I didn't break in. Savannah laughed. You just happened to find a metal case hidden behind a wall. There was a loose panel. And you decided to search it. I heard something fall behind it. Dominic looked at Asha. What? A phone. Savannah froze. Asha continued. Someone was inside the service corridor behind the wine cellar wall. Dominic frowned. There is no service corridor there. There is. Asha had discovered it by accident. 30 minutes before the party, she had entered the cellar to collect a bottle Dominic requested. She heard a phone vibrating behind the wine rack. When she removed a loose wooden panel, she found a narrow passage. Inside were muddy shoe prints. And the metal case. I didn't have time to tell you, Asha said. Savannah kept sending me back outside. Dominic turned toward his security chief, Leonard Price. Is there a corridor? Leonard hesitated. There's an old maintenance passage from when the penthouse was renovated. Who has access? Security, maintenance, and household management. Savannah smiled. Which includes Asha. Asha looked at her. No. My keycard doesn't open maintenance access. Leonard checked his tablet. She's right. Dominic looked back at Savannah. Does yours? Savannah's smile disappeared. I'm your girlfriend. Why would I need secret maintenance access? Leonard checked. Then went silent. Dominic noticed. What? Savannah's guest credential was upgraded 3 months ago. By who? Leonard swallowed. My deputy. On whose authorization? Another pause. Yours. Dominic stared at him. I never authorized that. Savannah immediately interrupted. This is ridiculous. Your security team makes mistakes all the time. Dominic held up the hotel key. Then we start with room 814. Savannah moved toward him. No. Everyone looked at her. She recovered quickly. I mean, not tonight. You have investors here. Dominic glanced around the rooftop. The guests who had laughed when Asha fell were now pretending not to listen. Party's over. Savannah's face hardened. You cannot throw everyone out because your maid found a picture. Dominic looked at the crowd. Everyone leaves. Now. Security began clearing the rooftop. Savannah grabbed his arm. You're embarrassing me. Dominic pulled away. You pushed one of my employees into a pool while people laughed. It was a joke. She couldn't swim properly because her ankle was injured. I didn't know. You didn't check either. Savannah looked at Asha. Something cold passed through her expression. Not guilt. Calculation. Dominic saw it. You knew about the case. No. Then why did you look terrified when I opened it? I didn't. Asha spoke quietly. You did. Savannah turned toward her. You should be very careful. Dominic stepped between them. No. You should. Asha's soaked uniform clung to her skin, and her ankle throbbed. But the fear she felt now had nothing to do with Savannah's insults. Someone had been using Dominic's home. Someone had hidden evidence inside his wall. And whoever it was knew Asha had found it. Dominic ordered Leonard to secure the cellar passage. Then he looked at Asha. You need a hospital. I need to see where that corridor goes. You can barely stand. I can still think. Dominic almost argued. Then stopped. Wheelchair. Asha gave him a look. I'm serious. So am I. 10 minutes later, she sat in a wheelchair beside the wine cellar while Dominic, Leonard, and 2 security officers opened the hidden panel. The passage was narrow, unfinished, and dusty. Except for one clean path through the center. Someone had been using it recently. Leonard found an access panel. Electronic lock. Dominic held out his hand. Open it. Leonard scanned his security credential. Denied. He tried again. Still denied. Asha looked at the small keypad. There's another way. Everyone turned. She pointed toward 4 worn buttons. Someone enters the same numbers repeatedly. Dominic leaned closer. Numbers 2, 3, 8, and 1 showed more wear than the others. Asha thought about the hotel key. Room 814. The missing money. Eric Vance. Then she remembered something from Savannah's party planning notes. Try 2381. Leonard entered it. The door unlocked. Dominic looked at her. Why that number? 23.8 million. His face changed. The amount missing from Hale Maritime had originally been reported as 23 million. But internal auditors later calculated the exact amount. $23.81 million. The corridor opened into a hidden storage room beneath the penthouse. Inside were dozens of boxes. Corporate documents. Burner phones. Cash bundles. And hotel keycards from cities across the country. Dominic stared. This has been under my home. Leonard looked sick. I didn't know. Asha noticed one box labeled Hale Maritime, Insurance Claims. She opened it. Inside were photographs of damaged cargo containers. Dominic looked over her shoulder. These containers were reported lost in a storm. Asha held up another picture. They weren't. The photographs showed the supposedly destroyed containers being unloaded at a private dock. Dominic's expression hardened. The missing 23 million wasn't stolen cash. It was insurance money, Leonard said. Fraudulent insurance money. Then Asha found a folder with Savannah's name. Inside were wire transfers from several shell companies. Millions. Dominic stared at the totals. You were being paid. Savannah's voice came from the doorway. For keeping you distracted. Everyone turned. She stood there holding Asha's phone. Asha immediately checked the side pocket of the wheelchair. Empty. You took it again. Savannah smiled. You really should keep better track of your things. Dominic stepped toward her. Put it down. Savannah held the phone over the stone floor. Your maid recorded our conversation by the pool. Asha frowned. I didn't. No. But your phone did. The screen showed an audio recording. It had started automatically when the phone got wet and emergency mode activated. Savannah's voice could be heard clearly. She was never supposed to find that case. Dominic stared at her. You said that. Savannah's face changed. Then she threw the phone. Asha lunged forward instinctively. Pain shot through her ankle. Dominic caught her before she fell. The phone shattered against the wall. Savannah ran. Leonard followed her. Dominic helped Asha sit again. Are you okay? Yes. Then a security alarm sounded. The hidden storage room door slammed shut. The lights turned red. A mechanical voice announced. Fire suppression system activated. Asha smelled gasoline. Not smoke. Gasoline. Dominic looked toward the boxes. Someone rigged this room. Asha pointed toward the ceiling. A nozzle opened. Clear liquid began spraying across the documents. Dominic grabbed the door handle. Locked. Then his phone rang. Savannah. He answered. Her voice was breathless. Walk away from the evidence. You locked us in. I didn't. Then who did? A man answered instead. Eric Vance. Alive. Hello, Dominic. Dominic froze. Asha stared at the phone. Eric continued. Savannah was never running this. A pause. She was protecting you from finding out who was. Dominic's expression changed. Who? Eric laughed softly. Ask your brother. The call ended. At that exact moment, a photograph appeared on Dominic's screen. His younger brother, Marcus Hale, stood on a private dock beside the supposedly destroyed cargo containers. And behind him was the same man who had just spoken on the phone. Eric Vance. Asha looked at Dominic. The missing money, Savannah, the hidden corridor, and the pool had all been pieces of something bigger. And now they were trapped inside a room filling with fuel while the person controlling it was still somewhere inside Dominic's own family. The clear liquid continued spraying across the hidden storage room. Asha smelled it again. Dominic, that isn't gasoline. He looked at her. What? She wiped a drop from the wheelchair arm and rubbed it between her fingers. It smells similar, but it's thinner. Dominic stared toward the ceiling nozzles. Then what is it? Asha looked at the boxes of corporate records. Solvent. The answer was worse. The liquid was designed to destroy ink, adhesives, labels, and electronic storage without necessarily starting a fire. Someone was erasing the room. Dominic grabbed a metal chair and slammed it against the locked door. Nothing. Asha looked around. The maintenance corridor. We came through one. There has to be another. Nobody builds a hidden storage room with one exit. Dominic searched the walls. Asha looked upward. The ceiling vents. One rectangular panel had cleaner screws than the others. Above you. Dominic dragged a cabinet beneath it and climbed. He tore the vent cover loose. A narrow service duct opened above. You first. Asha looked at her injured ankle. That's going to be graceful. I'll help. Dominic lifted her carefully from the wheelchair and boosted her into the duct. For once, she did not argue. Solvent was already pooling across the floor. Dominic climbed after her. Seconds later, the hidden room filled completely with chemical mist. They crawled through darkness. Asha's ankle screamed every time she moved. Then they heard voices below. Marcus Hale. Dominic stopped. His younger brother's voice came through the vent. Savannah panicked. Another man answered. Eric Vance. She pushed the maid before confirming whether she had the case. She was supposed to keep Dominic distracted. She's never been good under pressure. Dominic's face hardened. Asha touched his sleeve. Wait. Marcus continued. The insurance fraud is already exposed. Not everything. What about the marina accounts? Still clean. And Dominic? A pause. Eric laughed. Emotionally predictable. Asha watched Dominic react. Eric continued. He'll blame Savannah first. Then me. By the time he realizes you built the system, the money will be gone. Dominic whispered. Built what system? Asha pointed toward the vent. Listen. Marcus lowered his voice. Our father left Hale Maritime to Dominic because he believed I was reckless. Eric replied, so you spent 6 years proving Dominic was careless. Exactly. Asha understood. Marcus had not merely stolen from the company. He had constructed fraud beneath Dominic's leadership so that, once exposed, everything would appear to have happened because Dominic failed to control his own business. Eric said, the board meeting is tomorrow. Marcus answered, and by noon, Dominic will either resign or be removed. Dominic closed his eyes. His brother was not after $23 million. He was after Hale Maritime itself. Asha pointed toward the far end of the duct. They crawled silently until they reached another grate. Below was Dominic's private office. Empty. Dominic kicked the grate loose. He lowered Asha carefully, then climbed down. Her soaked party uniform was now stained with dust and solvent. Your glamorous evening is going well, he said. Asha stared at him. Is that a joke? A bad one. Very. But she almost smiled. Then Dominic's phone vibrated. Unknown number. Savannah. He answered. She was crying. Dominic, Marcus is going to kill Eric. Asha looked at him. Where are you? Savannah whispered, garage level 3. Stay there. No. Listen. Eric kept copies of everything. Where? He hid them in the pool filtration control room. Asha froze. The pool? Yes. Savannah continued. That's why I pushed her. Asha's expression hardened. Savannah rushed on. I saw Asha with the metal case. I thought she had already found the filtration records too. I wanted the case back before Dominic saw it. You could have asked. I was scared. You shoved me into water while people laughed. Silence. I know. No, Savannah. You know now because it failed. Dominic looked at Asha. She was right. Savannah continued. Marcus promised nobody would get hurt. Dominic almost laughed. You helped hide $23 million. I helped hide evidence because Marcus said the money was being moved temporarily to protect the company from a hostile takeover. And Eric? I thought he disappeared voluntarily. Asha folded her arms. Until when? Savannah whispered, tonight. Dominic asked, what changed? I heard Marcus tell Eric he was finished after the board meeting. Asha looked toward the office door. Where is Marcus now? Savannah answered. Going to the pool controls. The call ended. Dominic immediately moved. Asha stopped him. You're not running ahead alone. My brother is destroying evidence. And he wants you angry enough to make stupid decisions. Dominic looked at her. Another thing you're apparently better at than me. Yes. They took the service elevator to the rooftop mechanical level. The party had been evacuated. Broken champagne glasses still glittered near the pool. The same place Asha had been pushed less than an hour earlier. Behind the filtration room door, they heard shouting. Eric. You need me. Marcus answered. I needed you when nobody knew the containers survived. Dominic opened the door. Marcus spun around. Eric stood beside the filtration computer, his shirt torn. Savannah was against the wall. Marcus held a pistol. His eyes moved from Dominic to Asha. You survived the solvent room. Asha answered. Your maintenance ducts need better security. Marcus smiled. That's why I like her. Dominic stepped forward. Put the gun down. Marcus pointed it toward Eric. You still don't understand. I understand enough. No. You understand the theft. Marcus looked toward the filtration tanks. But not what was inside the containers. Asha frowned. What was inside them? Eric suddenly shouted. "Don't tell them." Marcus laughed. "Why not?" Then he looked directly at Dominic. The containers reported destroyed in the storm weren't carrying consumer cargo. He touched the filtration computer. They were carrying prototype marine batteries. Dominic went pale. Those batteries were Hale Maritime's most valuable unreleased technology. Marcus continued. "Your missing $23 million was just the insurance claim." Asha understood. The real theft was the batteries. Marcus nodded. "Worth nearly $400 million. Dominic stared at his brother. "You sold them?" "Not yet." "Then where are they?" Marcus smiled. "Still in Miami." A warning alarm suddenly sounded from the pool system. Eric had pressed something behind his back. The filtration screen changed. Emergency drain activated. Marcus turned. "What did you do?" Eric ran. Marcus fired. The bullet shattered a pipe instead of hitting him. Water exploded across the room. Asha dropped behind the control cabinet. Dominic tackled Marcus. The gun slid across the wet floor. Savannah kicked it toward Asha. She grabbed it and pushed it far beneath the machinery. Security officers stormed through the door seconds later and restrained Marcus. Eric was caught at the service stairs. Dominic stood soaked for the second time that night. Asha looked at Savannah. Savannah looked back. No apology could repair what she had done. Not yet. Then the filtration alarm changed again. A compartment beneath the pool began opening. Something enormous rose beneath the draining water. Not a maintenance platform. A sealed freight container. Dominic stared through the glass wall. Marcus laughed from the floor. "You wanted to know where the batteries were?" The container surfaced slowly. Asha looked at Dominic. His rooftop pool had not merely hidden financial evidence. For months, someone had been storing stolen prototype technology beneath the water directly above his own home. And printed across the container was a destination label. Port of Monaco, departure 6 o'clock tomorrow. The freight container rose slowly through the draining rooftop pool. Water poured from its steel sides. Across the container, the destination label remained clearly visible. Port of Monaco, departure 6 o'clock tomorrow. Dominic stared at Marcus. "You hid $400 million of prototype batteries under my home?" Marcus laughed from the floor while security restrained him. "Where better?" Asha looked at the pool. The answer was disturbing because it made sense. Nobody searched a billionaire's own penthouse for stolen cargo from his company. Especially when the billionaire himself had no idea it was there. Savannah stood against the wall, soaked and trembling. "You told me the container held accounting records." Marcus looked at her. "And you believed me because believing me was profitable." Dominic turned toward Savannah. "How much did he pay you?" She hesitated. $8 million. Asha's expression hardened. "For keeping Dominic distracted?" Savannah looked down. "For getting access to the penthouse." Dominic stared. "The relationship was part of this?" "No." She looked up quickly. "Not at first." That answer hurt more. Savannah continued. "I met Marcus through a charity event before I met you. He knew I had access to investors and social circles you trusted. He introduced us." Dominic's face went cold. "And after we started dating?" He asked for small things. "Security schedules?" "Yes." "Guest codes?" "Yes." "Maintenance access?" She nodded. "And eventually a place to hide stolen technology." Savannah started crying. "I didn't know how far it had gone until I couldn't get out." Asha looked at her. "You could have gotten out tonight." Savannah met her eyes. "You're right. You could have warned Dominic." "Yes. You could have warned me instead of pushing me into the pool." Savannah's voice broke. "Yes." Asha nodded once. "That was all. No forgiveness." "Not yet." Detectives arrived and immediately sealed the mechanical level. Corporate security photographed the container before engineers moved it to a protected loading area. Inside were 24 prototype marine batteries. Every serial number matched units Hale Maritime had officially reported destroyed during a hurricane 6 months earlier. The insurance company had paid $23.81 million for the loss. But the real value was far greater. The batteries contained proprietary technology capable of increasing electric cargo vessel range by nearly 40%. If sold overseas, Hale Maritime would lose years of research advantage. Dominic looked at Marcus. "You were going to sell our future." Marcus smiled. "Our father's future. There it is." Dominic stepped closer. "This was always about him choosing me. He chose the son who smiled for investors. He chose the son who didn't steal from him." Marcus lunged forward. Officers restrained him again. "You think you're better than me?" Dominic's expression changed. "No." He glanced toward Asha. "I think I've spent years assuming that because I wasn't committing the crime, I was somehow paying attention." Asha understood what he meant. The hidden corridor had existed inside his own home. Employees had used it. Millions had moved through it. Savannah had manipulated security access. And Dominic had seen none of it because everyone around him learned that he preferred results to questions. Detective Maria Solis approached with Marcus's phone. "We found scheduled messages." Dominic looked at her. "To whom?" "A broker in Monaco." She showed him the screen. The final message was scheduled for 5:30 a.m. "Package cleared." Dominic remains unaware. Asha almost laughed. That aged badly. Even Dominic smiled. Then Detective Solis opened another message thread. Savannah's name. Messages proved she had helped Marcus access the penthouse and conceal the freight container. But they also showed that 2 weeks earlier, Savannah had tried to withdraw. Marcus responded with photographs of her younger sister entering college. A warning beneath them read, "Finish the job or she learns what you started." Dominic looked at Savannah. "He threatened your sister." "Yes." "And you still pushed Asha?" Savannah closed her eyes. "Yes." Dominic nodded. "Both things can be true." Savannah looked at him. He continued, "You can be threatened and still be responsible for what you did to someone else." Asha glanced at Dominic. That was the first thing he had said all night that sounded like genuine understanding. Savannah was arrested for conspiracy, evidence tampering, assault, and assisting unauthorized access to Hale Maritime property. Her cooperation later helped investigators identify Marcus's international buyers, but she still faced consequences for her choices. Eric Vance was arrested before sunrise. Investigators discovered he had created the insurance scheme and helped falsify the storm loss records. Marcus had financed the entire operation through shell companies and planned to use the scandal to force Dominic out during the next board meeting. Neither man made it to that meeting. Instead, federal agents raided 3 storage facilities and recovered additional stolen technology. Hale Maritime's board opened an independent investigation into Dominic's oversight failures. He remained CEO temporarily but surrendered control of internal security and procurement reviews while the investigation continued. Asha resigned from the penthouse. Dominic did not try to change her mind. 3 weeks later, he visited her apartment. No security team. No expensive gift. Only a small cardboard box. Asha opened the door. "What's that?" "Your things from the staff office." She accepted it. Then noticed a folder on top. "What is this?" "A consulting offer." She gave him a look. "I resigned." "I know." "Then why are you offering me another job?" "Because it isn't in my house." He explained. Hale Maritime was creating an independent employee integrity office with authority to investigate executives, including him. The board wanted someone outside corporate leadership to help design it. Asha laughed. "You want a maid to redesign executive accountability?" Dominic shook his head. "No." He looked at her. "I want the woman who noticed a hidden corridor, a fake access code, and $400 million sitting beneath my swimming pool." Asha considered the offer. Then smiled. "Independent authority?" "Yes." "I report to the board?" "Yes." "You cannot fire me personally?" "No." "Better." She accepted. 6 months later, the rooftop pool reopened. Asha attended the event wearing a navy suit instead of a uniform. Dominic approached the pool edge. Bad memories? She looked at the water. Some. Then she smiled. But I'm standing beside it this time. Dominic nodded. No one's pushing you. Asha looked at him. That's because now everyone knows I push back. And the people who had once laughed when the black maid fell into the water now understood the part they had missed. The billionaire jumping into the pool had saved Asha from drowning. But exposing the truth beneath that pool was something Asha did herself.